Hello to all you innies and outies out there, and welcome to today's new Severance video. We are back with our weekly theory video where I discuss some of the biggest talking points after the most recent episode of Severance, and after episode 8 where we discovered just how key Cobel was to the invention of the Severance program, and now I understand why she said this.
You don't value me, you fear me.
In today's video, we'll be discussing all things Harmony Cobel and why this wasn't a filler episode and so much more. There's so much to go over in today's video, so let's put our winter clothes on to stay warm because it's always cold at Salt's Neck Harbor, and let's discuss some crazy theories after watching episode 8 of season 2 of Severance. So normally I like to start these videos off talking about Seth Milchick, but he's got the week off this time around, but I bet he's still running around for Lumon doing something during episode 8, but I do wonder if he does know that Harmony Cobel was the one behind Severance. But before we get into our nitty-gritty, I want to address something I've seen in the comments of my video and I've seen online about the most recent episode, and that's how people called the latest episode of Severance a filler episode. Look, I'm not telling you all how to feel or that you're wrong for not liking the episode, because to each their own, but I think some people just say words without actually understanding what they mean. Now, I've heard the word filler episode for many years of being a television watcher, but I've heard it mostly coming from the anime community, and from what I understand, a lot of people within that community feel like some episodes lack the series momentum, meaning the episode can be safely ignored without the audience missing out on any important information to the overall story and series. Now, filler episodes can be entries in a continuous series that are unrelated to the main plot. They don't significantly alter the relations between the characters and generally serve only to take up space. So again, whether you hated the episode or strongly disliked the episode or thought it was just a boring episode of television, that's fine, to each their own, but by the definition of filler, this was 100% not a filler episode. Now we'll get into more reasons why in this breakdown, but I just had to get that off my chest up top because of how many times it irked my nerves seeing that so many times over the weekend that this was a filler episode, but again, I digress.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
Now look, I don't think Harmony Cobel is completely off the hook. I don't think she's 100% a good guy, or in the terms of wrestling, I don't think she's gone full babyface. I'll never forgive her for what she did at Petey's funeral. That was completely disrespectful and unethical and inappropriate, and also all the yelling at Mark and throwing things at Mark. But I will say I do like how now, knowing what we know at the end of episode 8, it really puts into context some of the moments where we've seen her level of interest at certain points with certain characters, but also we now understand where her character's feelings of being disrespected stem from. For example, first thing that came to mind was her high level of interest in watching and observing the wellness sessions between Gemma and Mark. This was her creation, and she gets to see it firsthand, and I believe the origins of her work, which we'll discuss more in depth later, but I believe she wanted Severance to be a solution to relieving those in pain and or in grieving, and seeing Mark having this experience with his led to believe dead wife and sharing this time with her truly moved Cobel. Now, speaking to her level of frustration after getting fired by Lumon makes even more sense considering what her contributions were to Lumon, but thinking about her and Helena's confrontation in the parking lot as well as in the meeting room.
I should be running the severed floor.
I think you've overestimated your contributions. We fear no one.
They 100% fear Harmony Cobel, and they know if she reveals to the world who was truly behind the revolutionary idea behind Severance, the Eagan legacy will be put to question, and who knows who else will come out of the woodworks and reveal how Lumon stole concepts or big ideas from them as well. Also think about the time when she was acknowledging the possibility of Petey's reintegration and knowing very well that that was possible, even against the board's disbelief. Could you imagine how she must have felt with the company or the board not listening to the person who created the chip? You would think Lumon or the board would take the time to actually listen to the possibilities raised by the in-house expert, which honestly now adds more fuel to the fire that how many people believe that the board is just made up of a bunch of idiots and or goats who have no idea what they're doing. Now, another major reveal from episode 8 was meeting Harmony Cobel's aunt, Sissy Cobel, who was left responsible for caring for her sister and Harmony's mother, Charlotte. From the way she dressed to the way she spoke and how she was through and through a true queer believer, you now understand where Harmony got her ways about her from. I could be wrong, but back in season 1, when she told Annie Mark that her mother was an atheist, but then she told Audi Mark that her mother was a Catholic, maybe she was referring to her Aunt Sissy being the believer in Cure, but then we find out that her mother wasn't a believer and she was the non-believer of Cure. Which, to that point, I still believe there's more to Cobel's family story. What exactly made Charlotte a non-believer in Cure? Who were their actual parents? I'm referring to Sissy and Charlotte. And did Charlotte take her own life, or did her sister do it? Now, moving on to more speculation on my part, but after officially visiting and spending time in Salt's Neck in episode 8, for me, I'm going to make this headcanon and say that the name Cold Harbor was created by Cobel because of the living conditions to where she grew up, and of course we know she was also the one who started the Cold Harbor program to begin with.
So close to completing Cold Harbor. I intend to finish the work that I started.
I think it's safe to assume that the original idea behind Cold Harbor was manipulated by Lumon and wasn't as cruel as Harmony imagined. I personally think the idea behind Harmony's severed chip all stems from the brutal conditions from her and all the other children and all the other employees face while manufacturing the ether from the Lumon factory. I would think that Harmony created the severance procedure as a way to help the people working there from the misery that Lumon forced upon them and eventually led to many of them becoming addicted to ether. Honestly, in a way, I think ether was the first form of severance in Lumon's eyes. Think about it like this: you get the effects from the drug, and you slowly start to feel like you aren't yourself. Eventually, after many days inside, you forget what you did in the factory for work. You would imagine that after time, people became a shell of themselves and began cutting out those parts of their day working in the factory from their memory. Now back to Cobel, she may have started to believe that people working inside the factories, aka their innies, were shadows of oneself. That may explain why she was obsessed with Mark and studied him over the years. Seeing the daily pain and the grief in his eyes reminded her of how she felt about losing her own mother. Which, speaking of her mother, it isn't hard to imagine that Harmony's main motivation for developing Severance was an attempt to save her mother from the daily pain and the illness and her eventual death after getting lung disease from the ether working in the factory or inhaling the smells it produced throughout the town over time. It was implied that her mother became an addict to ether, and based on Hampton's comments about Cure's first wife, she may have suffered a similar fate. Now, I mentioned this in my previous breakdown of the episode, but I am curious to know, what was made of Charlotte's body after she passed? I wouldn't be surprised if Sissy agreed to give her sister's body to Lumon for reasons we will later find out, most likely leverage against Harmony. Now, I want to switch gears and speak on other relationships that are now more important for Harmony after our major reveals. The first relationship I want to learn more about is the one between Harmony and Ragabi. Does Ragabi know Harmony invented Severance? Did they work together in its development? In Harmony's notebook, we saw similar looking brain waves that appeared on the display of one of Ragabi's machines when she was reintegrating Mark. Does that mean that Harmony built some type of failsafe with Ragabi for if people wanted out and wanted to reintegrate? Now again, we saw Ragabi told Devin how she felt about Harmony and her relationship with Lumon in episode 7, but there has to be more about Ragabi and Harmony's relationship with Severance. Also, Ragabi herself, what led her to turn on Lumon? Is there a personal reason? Was she fired like Harmony and wants to get out all of Lumon's evil plans? I am really looking forward to learning hopefully more about Ragabi and again her relationship with Harmony. Now another relationship that may be more than meets the eye, and that's the one between Harmony and Jame Eagan. I've mentioned it in the past, and I know some of you all believe that Harmony is a secret child of an Eagan, which I think could still be on the table because we have yet to hear about who her actual father is. But speaking directly about the relationship between Jame and Eagan, who personally gave the Wintertide Award to her seen in her yearbook. Was their relationship more than mentor-mentee? He did see Cure in her, and we know the Eagans have been known for being involved in a relationship with those much younger. Thinking about Cure's first wife, Imogen, and her being the woe tiny wife and possibly underage. Did Jame and Harmony have a romantic relationship, and could Harmony Cobel possibly be Helena's mother? Now, before wrapping up, I do want to share a couple of little details after a recent rewatch. When Harmony looks in her yearbook, we see that she was valedictorian and was president of the Goat Huppentry Club. Could that explain why the goats are in the Lumon building? With Harmony being an expert of the goats, it most likely points to her testing the severance procedure on the goats first. Now, at the end of the episode, we know that there is a Lumon worker or a Cure believer that Sissy called to let them know about Harmony's location. Now, was that person Drummond? We know that it's like a 200-mile drive from Cure to Sauce Neck, so it could be him. Or it could simply be a local, but either way, could we see some car chase sequence at the beginning of episode 9, and that would explain why we see Cobel's car and the cold waters of Salt Neck in the opening credits? Which, speaking of the opening credits, this shot of Cobel with the book and we get into her head, it makes so much sense now considering that she created Severance, hence the head going into her head, and the book is in reference to her notebook with her ideas. Now, last thing I want to end this video on is talking about the shots that we have yet to see in the episode from the trailers. Could this be Harmony visiting Jame Eagan's house to confront him about taking the credit of Severance away from her and also firing her? Or could this be the board's place of operations? I think that's a great place to end this week's theory video. So with that said, share your thoughts about everything we discussed in this video, and please keep sharing your incredible creative detailed theories in the comments below for more videos just like this. Now, if you all haven't already, check out my breakdown of episode 8 where we discuss more about Hampton and Harmony's relationship, more about Sissy as well as Salt's Neck, and so much more. So I will see you all later in the week to discuss episode 9, the penultimate episode, which I'm excited for. But before wrapping up, if you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button, consider sharing this video to anyone and everyone you know that loves talking about Severance. And if this is your first time coming to the channel, welcome to the community. Stick around and check out some other videos around Severance, and if you like what you see, consider subscribing to the channel. And if you all want to take the support even further, you can consider joining the channel memberships, which could be found in the description of this very video. Remember, you all are awesome, stay safe, and I'll catch you all in the next video. And remember,
Give us, these are our lives. No one gets to just turn you off.